All right, everyone. Happily evinced again. It turns out the prediction that some of us made was indeed true. Kamala Harris was pissed when Joe Biden put on the MAGA hat that time. Now, the plausible deniability, as we all remember, I'm sure, is, hey, man, this is a symbol of unity. The real reason he wanted to screw Kamala Harris, and not in the literal sense. This much was fairly clear from the get-go, especially with some of his other actions thereafter, and a few of them before, actually. He just didn't want Kamala to win. He gave one last parting shot. I think that he did this. Here's, I believe, what his goal was. Uniparty comes to him and says, Joe, you can't do it. You got to drop out. Kamala's going to be the candidate. And I think that he and Jill as well, probably more Jill than him, got mad and said, like, how dare you disrespect me? I'm still capable of doing 10 push-ups with corn pop out behind the woodshed and shit like that. And so he felt slighted. And then he came out and he said, well, I'm going to go scorched earth on these bastards. Why not? What else am I going to do? I'm clearly not going to be president of the United States because the party, if they don't support me, there's no way I can win. All right. Yeah, all right, Kamala. You can run. This is going to be great. I almost have to respect the old bastard because it's masterful trolling. And that's clearly what it was. Kamala apparently was pissed as hell when he did this. But he's got plausible deniability and he can't really criticize him because he's, a shaky old man. So it's going to be kind of hard. You can't come out and bitch in public about it, not during the election itself. What are you supposed to do? There's nothing that you can do. That was the whole point. Joe Biden stabbed the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris in the back effectively. It's actually, well, it's kind of a thing of beauty. He's like, I'm on my last, hurrah, so to speak. I'm going to leave the presidency. Certainly can't run for any political office again. Why don't I burn down the house on my way out? That sounds like a fun idea. Biden, you crazy old man, why are you forcing me to actually give you credit for something? All right, I guess you go from a 0 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10 presidency. I'll give you a solid point just for wearing the MAGA hat that one time because either you blitzed out for a moment and didn't know what the fuck you were doing, or you did it on purpose. I have a feeling it was probably the latter, actually. And Biden, if you look at his history, he's kind of been a cutthroat politician when you think about it. With the tough on crime, the racial jungle stuff. He was one of the more well-spoken senators of the 1970s and 80s, actually. He very well-spoken. He's not an unintelligent individual. He played court jester as a method actor for the vice presidency, just as a counterbalance to Obama, because Obama's like stern, high-spoken Martin Luther King wannabe young black president, and the Democrats realized back in the id poll era that you needed to counterbalance that, to get the boomer vote in. So they had to have an older white male. And to be a bit of a minstrel, ironically, a minstrel in reverse, to act befuddled, to do basically the opposite of what Dick Cheney was doing. In that particular dynamic, of course, it was Bush that was playing dumb. I assure you that George W. is not dumb. I also assure you that it was him making the decisions and that Dick Cheney leered at people on a regular basis for a method acting reason. With regards to Biden, he's not unintelligent. He knows he got screwed, by the way. He had a bad debate performance because I guess they didn't give him his CIA super drugs that morning. And so they had no choice but to cycle him out. I mean, what else are you going to do? You really going to run this dude? And honestly, though, still think he would have done better than Kamala Harris. She is a uniquely unqualified, I would argue disqualified, candidate. And so that's basically what happened. It looks like Kamala is sort of in on the joke and understands Joe really didn't like her. He didn't want her to be running mate. It was the party that forced him to take her on as running mate. We all know that shit. It was Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that made that fucking decision. You think that the Bidens, waspish racist, literally racist, unlike, the figurative racism of Kanye or something like that, artistic racism, you could call it. Literal racists, plantation home dwellers, people like Elizabeth Warren, Jill Biden, so forth, don't like ethnic minorities. They are NIMBYists. That is, they want lots of black people in the country, but they're there to serve them their goddamn hamburger. They're not there to be in their house. That's the way that they think. I've met these people over and over and over again. They typically are upper middle class, white, waspish individuals. They'll say, well, I believe in an open border. But the second that the bus full of Hispanics comes to their neighborhood, all of a sudden it's a big problem. We saw this in Martha's Vineyard. Ron DeSantis pulled the bandage off, so to speak. He ripped back the curtain with the Martha's Vineyard stunt. And it was so funny to see so many liberal commentators saying, whoa, this is illegal. Well, this is a terrible day. What? You got like, what, 50, 60 people on the island who aren't white? Wow, what a black day this is. Oh my God, it's going to turn into another Harlem, pre-Harlem Renaissance or something like that. It's going to turn into a ghetto, what they would call a coon town back in the day or something like that. Oh my God, people with a darker complexion than us are around now? Oh my. Dude, get over yourselves. But it happens all the time. Kamala's a NIMBYist too. The funny part is, she's a NIMBYist who's also on ethnic, as they would term it in some circles, because she's of, disputable ethnic origin. She's mostly Indian, actually, although she's reckoned black. Maybe it's her existence that explains why the rise of the use of the term BIPOC was made popularized by the Democratic Party in the first place. It is entirely possible. Well, she counts, because she's BIPOC. She's a brown person. So everything other than white, basically. It's literally white exclusionary. I found that funny too. Kamala was apparently enraged at Joe. I'm not surprised by this. I mean, you can't really blame her because he was clearly putting the screws to her campaign. He was willingly giving fodder, I think, to the MAGA movement, and he was grinning like a crocodile the entire time. So he knew what he was doing. I have a feeling that Joe had just enough neurons left firing that he knew particularly what he was doing. That's about all. Peace out.